like drinking poison, but expecting the other person to die. I think when we hold on to unforgiveness, it impacts us. Most of the times, the people that offend us have moved on. They have forgotten the offense. And every time we see them, we rile up, we feel something. It's only when we let them go that we can truly move on and heal.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Jean Price, where we have another topic, another issue, something exciting to talk about. I want you to go get everyone that you could think of. You want to hear this segment on tonight. It's probably one of my favorite topics to talk about because even you'll hear the title in a few minutes, but even the word that's in the title is where the season that I'm in. But I want you to like, I want you to comment, I want you to subscribe, I want you to share, I want you to do all those things that we do in this season. I'm excited about this new season, the new look of the show, the new our team has put together so many wonderful things for Real Talk with Jean Price, and I want to celebrate that again. I always want to give a shout out to my team who does such an amazing job. They're just absolutely wonderful. So tonight, without further ado, I want you to help me welcome my guest. She is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait for you all to hear her story. I cannot wait for you to hear what she's going to talk about tonight. So help me welcome to the show tonight, Dr. Akia Blandon, to Real Talk with Jean Price.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Lady Price. Well, good evening.
How are you? Thank you so much for being on Real Talk tonight.
It is my pleasure. It's wonderful to be back again.
We're going to get into it. And I said in the opening, Dr. Blandon, this is probably one of my most famous topics to talk about because I come from a world of being the underdog, and you know what it's like to be the underdog. And of course, by the grace of God, for Him to just take your lives and turn it around. But before we get started, I want Dr. Blandon to share with the viewing audience a little bit about herself. Go ahead and share, Doctor.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Dr. Akia Blandon. I am a doctor of nursing practice, which means that I'm an advanced practice nurse. I am both a primary care and psychiatric nurse practitioner. I take care, provide medication, provide plans of care, assist people on this journey called Life Medically. I am a proud mother of 5 amazing adult humans. They are truly my, proverbial wind beneath my wings. They definitely are my motivators. I have 4 sons and a daughter. I am a born again believer in Jesus Christ. He is my sustainer, my everything, my life. And I am nothing without him. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to dive right into this topic tonight. You said something, one key word that I want to start with is journey. Can you kind of share with us how the journey started? And of course, we see where you are now. Because even in the book of Job, the word of God says, I think chapter 42, that his ladder was greater than his beginning. Share with us about the beginning.
It's so interesting that you would even refer to that scripture.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that is somewhere in the middle of this journey, as I was walking out of an 8-bedroom home,
Mm,
walking away from a marriage with my children, my 5 children in tow, moving into a 3-bedroom apartment in New York City. As I stood on the stairs of what I thought was my forever home, I heard the Lord say to me that my ladder will be
ah,
greater.
come on.
And I literally cried from Brentwood, Long Island, all the way to New York. But that's that's not the beginning, but that triggered the memory.
Yes, of
Um,
course.
the beginning, I grew up in New York City, um, regular kind of girl. Grew up on Central Park West. We used to joke and say that the park was our backyard because we didn't have one.
Mhm.
Grew up in a single parent home. My grandmother actually was the predominant one raising me. My mom was definitely around, but my grandmother, I kind of was the
Mhm.
first
Yeah,
granddaughter, uh, at least that was around. And so, I was grandma's girl. Uh,
right.
but I endured some challenges, right? With the way life goes,
Yeah.
when you have purpose in your life, the enemy sets out real early on to
Yeah.
destroy that purpose or to damage you to the point that that purpose can't come to
Yes.
pass, right? Because he has no real authority in
Yeah.
stopping you. He only
Mhm.
can make us get to the point where we lay down and we stop, right? And
Right.
so early on, I endured emotional abuse, I endured physical abuse, and probably the most detrimental of all, I endured sexual abuse
Okay.
from the age of 6, that I can recall, from the age of 6. But even
Mhm.
my first memories was that of my mother being violated, and I was probably 3 years old when I talked to my mom about how I remember that and that scene.
Mhm.
So, looking back, the beginning was challenging. The beginning was destructive. You
Yeah.
know, that was the beginning.
Wow. Tonight's show is entitled Life Transformative Journey. Not just a journey, but the transformation of that journey. And we hear about your successes, and I would dare say I like to call you a winner, right? So we understand that there was something like, I love the way you place that, how life starts and how the enemy gets involved, and he has his plan, but of course we know God has the ultimate plan, but he has a plan to try to stop us. How did you fare with your children? Because one of the things I learned, doctor, was that when I came out of abuse, which we have similar backgrounds, it was hard for me being, I'm having a transparent moment. It was hard for me to learn and to teach my girls at the same time because I was so broken. How did you do it?
Mm. I think I did it broken.
Oh, that's
I,
good. That's so good.
I, I, I don't think there was any particular time where I felt like I had this thing together.
Right,
I don't think that there was any moment where I just knew I was where I was supposed to be or
right,
that I had
right,
all the tools in my bag. Heck, I didn't even know certain times if I even had a bag, right?
right.
Much less the tools to grab them.
Yes,
So, so I think the key was putting one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other,
yes.
understanding that if I stopped, they stopped.
Mm,
Understanding that if I gave up, what would happen to them? And there's something innate in mothers that we feel like we have to do better because we want them to be better. But
yes,
if I showed them that I quit, that I gave up, that I laid it down, no matter what was going on, then how could they press on? How could they move on? How could
right,
they go on to be greater than me, if you would? Right?
right,
So
right.
I think I did it broken.
Hmm.
And it was as I was doing it broken, what seemed to be broken, actually was coming together. So
Yes,
as I stepped, and I honored God in my walk with him, and I honored God by not having a men around my children, and I honored God by living holy and committing to him what was his, what no husband was supposed to have if he
right.
was not my husband. And I think you fully understand what I mean. As I committed my walk to God and my personhood to God and my life to God, I think in
Mm,
my brokenness, He was bringing me together.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Scripture tells us that it was good that I was afflicted. I learned to love his law. And even as you're talking, oh my goodness, doctor, whew, even as you're talking, I can hear the all things that worked together for the good. I hear that in your voice. I hear that in your tone. I see that in your face. It's your face is beaming. Like inspiration is just coming out of you. I want to go a little deep, and I want to talk about, did any of your children? Um, I know you talk about how they fared, but was there any one of them that kind of did not fare? And when I say did not fare, struggled.
Oh, of course. Listen, if the enemy can't get you, he's coming to the
Come on,
closest thing
go
to
to
you.
the sea. Go to the sea. Right, right.
So listen, and they had some act up, and
Mhm.
every one of them were not perfect. When I look back on them, my oldest son, who's 30 now, you know, he I tell him that that was my test. That was my test. That's where I learned, because the circumstances surrounding his birth, I was a teenage mother, right? And so, I was 17 years old, going to 18 years old, 2 months from my 18th birthday. His dad and I broke up straight from the gate, and at the point of me having him, I was a high school dropout. I didn't have a high school diploma, so he was my motivator. And but him being that close to me, right, as he aged and aged absent of a father or father figure, right, because the fact that I chose not to have men around my children, there was
Yes.
a loss. And while his dad and he are close and we're all friends now, at the time
Yes.
he wasn't there physically. And so
Right.
my son had to kind of figure out this thing called manhood all by
Mm,
himself. He had to figure out, what this thing meant. What is this feeling? What is this emotion? And in trying to do that, the streets will disciple where the house of God doesn't.
yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
so my son thought he was going to be a thug. That's what he thought. But he didn't
Mhm.
recognize that his mother was a bigger thug than he was.
Yes,
And
Lord.
so when he was 14 years old, I said, no, 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 you're good jail time. I picked
Mm,
him up out of New York City
mm,
and I moved him to Bergen County, New Jersey.
mm,
And
mm,
I literally told the realtor, take me to the place where you don't see us.
okay. Okay.
And in that, he transformed. But if you look at each of my children, each one of them had something. Each one of them went through something that caused
Mhm.
me.
Didn't hear the last part, doctor, because it went out. Can you repeat that part?
My
I heard
apology.
you
Are you able
say
to hear me now?
yes. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay. I said each one of them went through something. Each one of them went through a test or a trial. Each one of them struggled. Each one of them caused me to shed tears.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
was there a challenge? 100% in every single one of them.
Yeah. I watched a clip today, doctor, from Tamron Hall. Kirk Franklin was on there, right? And she was interviewing him. He's doing a tour, but he said something that was very interesting. He said that he has to and had to learn to win while being wounded. I said, now, wait a minute, that'll preach. And it's so true how, like you're saying, even with your son and even with yourself, how we have to keep going. We can't let failure's not an option. Fear, though we've had it, could not be an option to stop us. We had to keep going while we were wounded. What was it like when other people realized the change in you? And let me give you what I mean is that when I started changing, I think it made people very uncomfortable, changing for the better, God being in my life, the glory of the Lord shining. It made people more uncomfortable in me trying to do good than staying in the state that I was in. So, what was it like for you?
There's that saying that describes people, they compare the people to the tree. And some
Mm,
people are leaves, some people are branches, some people are the bulk of the tree, and other people are roots.
mm,
And when we try to make leaves roots, is where we get in trouble. And so, as God was
so good.
developing me, as He
Yes.
was developing me, people fell off because pain is comfortable. And I can relate to your pain, but I can't relate to your promise, or I can't relate to your purpose.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I'm offended by where you're going because you're not relating to this pain the same way.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so sometimes I had to walk in alone seasons.
Mm, yes.
Sometimes I had to walk where the only person I could call on was the Lord.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I had to understand that everybody that came with me can't go with me.
Wow. Mm,
And
yes.
so, was it easy for me? No, it wasn't, because you
Yeah.
love people
Yes.
and I'm loyal to a fault. So I
Mhm,
think that I need to bring everybody with me.
mhm.
But I learned that sometimes if I'm trying to bring people along with me where there is not anointing or gifting for them to go, they will
Right.
actually be that which drowns me as
Wow.
opposed to that which causes me to float.
That's powerful. That is so powerful. Wow. So you're a nurse, right? When did you realize that you wanted to be a nurse and what made you be a nurse? Because I love
So I think it's funny that the decision to become a nurse
that. Hmm.
happened when I was 18, when I had my son.
Hmm.
They were going to pay me after I passed my GED on the first time. They were going to pay to send me to school, right? Social services paid to send us to school. And they gave me two options: chef or nurse.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been cooking since I was 9 years old. So
Okay.
chef, so that
Love
was
it.
an option. But
Hmm.
going through nursing school and taking care of people, being an
Mm,
aid to patients, I
yeah.
realized that nurturing was who I was designed to be from birth. I
Mm,
was a
yeah.
nurturer by nature. And so the
Mm,
career of nursing fit me because I was
right.
able to take care and advocate and encourage and promote health and help people understand the importance of difficult tasks. So
Mhm.
I learned that as I started to doing this, like, wait, this is not a career. This is a call.
Oh, love
And
it. Mm,
so I kind of said, you know what? I'm going to stay. And what made that even more real for me is that God literally just made provisions for me to excel, like to do my registered nurse from the LPN. You know, the
right.
government paid for the LPN. Well,
Hmm.
the union paid for the RN, and my job paid for the bachelor's.
Oh, come on.
And, you
That's
know,
so.
my job paid for the master's, and
Hmm.
my job paid for the doctorate, and my
Right.
job paid for the postdoctorate, and my job paid for the second doctorate. So where you see provision,
Hmm.
right? Because oftentimes we ask God to bless us where we are, as
Yes.
opposed
Yes.
to asking God to show us where the provision is so we can walk therein.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's what I found nursing was for me.
Wow, that's absolutely that's phenomenal. That really is, and I love that because of your heart. And I can see that even while we talk, I can see it, I can hear it. I think it's beautiful. Let's go back to the word triumph. I think that's such a great word, right? Triumph appears to offer a roadmap for overcoming adversity, right? Could you share some of the key lessons or strategies you outline in the book? She has an amazing book, guys. I want you all to get her book. I can't wait to read it. Listen, it's up on the screen. I want you to take a look. Oh, wow. Beautiful, beautiful. Triumph My Journey, His Call. That alone is absolutely powerful. Dr. Blandon, share with us. Share, please.
Thank you so much. You know, the book is overall, there's so many nuggets in it, right? My life, you know, some of the reviews that I've heard people say about reading the book revolves around me just laying it bare, right? And a secret is only powerful when you don't tell it. The enemy only has authority over what you've gone through or your experiences when you don't tell it.
Right?
And we don't tell it oftentimes because of shame.
Yes.
We don't tell it oftentimes because we've believed the lie that we somehow deserve the pain that was inflicted upon us by someone who should not have inflicted pain on us.
Right.
So when I
Right.
look my throughout the book, you're going to hear me talk about very real issues.
Yeah.
You're going to hear me talk about, it opens up with me talking about my sexual abuse. And there
Mm,
is no, the pain of the sexual abuse is not there, but I
right.
still remember it as clear as day. I still can hear Sesame Street in the background, but
Mm,
the pain of it is no
yeah.
longer there. And the
Yes.
fact of forgiveness, which is another key factor in the book, is
Hmm.
evident in that I physically protected the man from being beaten years later as an adult, as he looked on me with lust.
Mm.
And I got to tell him that what the enemy used him to do didn't destroy me, but it made me stronger. And I stood in the gap, quote unquote, for him
Right.
to prevent my family members from attacking him. That was clear evidence that,
Yes.
wow,
Yes.
I have moved on from the pain of the event.
Mhm.
In the book, I talk about my daddy issues. My
Okay.
dad was in prison for 28 years. I look to men for value, for, worth, for love, for all of the things that I probably should have looked to my dad for. I talk about my mom, and I talk about the choices that I made, because
Mhm.
it's not always about what we've experienced. A lot of times we want to
Yeah.
blame everything but us.
Mm.
And
Right.
some of the things we go through is because of us.
Is it mm.
And
That was
we
good.
are our own worst enemy very often. So I talk
Right.
about that. I talk about my journey as a single mother. I talk about my journey as walking with Christ and falling in the middle of a church and becoming pregnant after giving my heart to the Lord. And how God, He just wrapped me in His arm and picked me up and loved me. I
Mhm.
talk about forgiveness. I talk about what resilience is.
Right. Right.
I talk
Right.
about marriage and divorce and how to pick yourself back up. I talk about perseverance and grit.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about this thing called life.
Yeah.
And so, what makes the story so relatable is that my journey is reflective of so many. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
isolated to women of color. It's not
That's
isolated to,
that's
to men. It's not isolated to children. It's not isolated to anyone, but it's relatable. There was a Jewish rabbi, Lady Price, who bought my book because he followed me on LinkedIn. A
right. Wow.
Jewish rabbi,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and cried reading the book and couldn't believe some of the things that I went through, and subsequently turned around and sponsored 100 copies of the book to nurses aides in New York City, because he felt like everyone needed to hear my story.
Yes. Yes.
So the book is one that'll give you life,
Mm,
because of
mm.
the life that I received through Christ.
Yes.
And so I
That's
told
beautiful.
the story because God said tell it, because the
Hmm.
story is not mine. Because as you said in the beginning, all things work
Yes.
together for good to them
Yeah.
that love God, who are the called according to His purpose.
Wow. Well, let me tell you something. We're gonna take a commercial break because that was such a powerful segue to the second half of this show. This stuff. You listen, don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
I'm a firm believer that unforgiveness is like drinking poison, but expecting the other person to die. I think when we hold on to unforgiveness, it impacts us. Most of the times, the people that offend us have moved on. They have forgotten the offense. And every time we see them, we rile up, we feel something. It's only when we let them go that we can truly move on and heal.
Welcome back to Real Talk. Oh my goodness, we're having such a great conversation with my guest, talking about life's transformative journey. And I would dare say that Dr. Blandon's journey has definitely been triumphant, and the title of her book mirrors her life. Such a beautiful, beautiful spirit that she has. And I am admonishing everybody before I bring her back on the show. You need to get a copy of her book. I'm telling you, if you have a women's group, if you have some kind of organization, you could use it as a great read. It could be a good book club read. I have some questions I'm going to ask her offline on the show, but this has been great. Help me welcome back to Real Talk, Dr. Blandon. Come on back to Real Talk. You know, I have to tell you something. This has been, I know you were on the show before, but this has been so amazing. I just feel there's such a connection between the two of us as we're talking, not just because of experiences, but because of triumphancy. It's the way that it mirrors. And I love the fact that sometimes you can be an underdog in something, as I stated in the beginning of the show, and then watch the power of God move the way it is. Why don't you just kind of, for those that are coming on the show in the second half, just kind of chime back in, Dr. Blandon, and just kind of let start from where you are about how you came to write the book.
Okay. So it's interesting that you use the words underdog. Growing up as a kid, I was the girl your mother didn't want you hanging out with, right? Because of the pain of my abuse. I was the girl that your mother said you can't hang out with her because she's fast, and I was the one who wasn't gonna be anything. And so that underdog thing is real, right? It's real. And so, in terms of writing the book, I've known the title, at least the second part of the title of my book, for many years. God told me I was going to write a book years ago. And He said to me, My journey, His call, because it was all about what I went through and who was calling me, that He was calling me. And so, as we were writing the book, this book surprisingly was written in under 3 months. I
Oh, wow.
yeah. I met with my co-author, Jack Redman, uh, in a coffee shop, and we outlined the book. And within 3 months, we had a book that went to the editor. Uh, and the editor, normally editors take weeks to get back to you.
Yes,
My
yes.
editor read my book in one day. She said, I couldn't put it down. This has to be told. This is a woman who doesn't know me. This is a woman who, like just amazing. And so writing the book was really about, I said to the Lord, I wanted to help just one person understand that their mistakes, their experiences, their circumstances,
Mhm.
their pains, their struggles, their hurts, that did not define them.
Yes.
And that through Christ, they had a choice to
Mhm.
also live triumphantly.
Yes, yes. I have a question, Dr. Blandon. How did you, because I talk, I mentioned, as you know, girls and women who have similar backgrounds as you and I. How do you, what do you share? Maybe it's a what question with those that talk to you, how to manage, because manage is perception, right? How to manage triggers.
That's a great question. So I think it's depending on the trigger,
Oh,
right?
yes, yes.
So if the trigger is a daddy issue or a mommy issue,
So good.
right? I tell people the view, the desire, the want that you have that that person should have been,
Hmm.
allow yourself to mourn that person.
Yes, yes.
Allow yourself to mourn that wish, that hope, that whatever it was that you felt, that feel that you needed in a parent, so that you can honor the parent that you have.
Right, right.
Because even in the shortcomings of our parents, we still take away lessons.
Yeah,
My mother and I didn't get along for the beginning of our relationship. And in part, it was because of things she experienced. And
yeah.
in part, it was because of how much I reminded her of someone who hurt her, my father.
Gotcha.
But when I began to see my mother through the eyes of God, I
Yes.
was able to honor her. So I tell people who have triggers in this area,
Hmm.
mourn the loss of the parent you had so you can honor the person in the parent that you received.
That is powerful. Wow.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. One of the other things might have touched it a little bit, doctor, tonight is that one of the things I share with women and girls is to give yourself some grace. I think coming through, doc, um, some of the things I had to get through, I was so hard on myself. And I was hard on myself, and it wasn't necessary to be that hard on myself because I wasn't perfect. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes the expectation of people is that get over it or you should be over it already. And sometimes they define your timeline, but only God can define your timeline. So I've learned over the years, of course, and one of the things I share with women that I work with is now you have to put in the work. Don't get me wrong. There is a process, but you got to give yourself some grace. And when you mention about the mourning, that comes with giving yourself some grace. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't all mourn the same in natural death. People
Absolutely.
that we love and they're gone to be with the Lord and so forth. But we also have to give ourselves some grace in how we mourn getting through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I think the people that we're the hardest on is ourselves. We are so hard on ourselves, whether it's as mothers and we think we should be perfect. And when the house not being clean or the whatever not being done or the laundry being piled up, it's clean but it's not folded. We've somehow bought into the June Cleaver,
Yes.
idea of how our home should look. Meanwhile, we're working a job, we're raising 5 children, we have situations, right? And we're still trying to grieve the losses that we've packaged so nicely and put in a box all of our lives. No, we're so hard on ourselves, and there's no reason for us to be that. So I agree with you. Give yourself some grace. Allow the tears to flow, right? The Bible says that God bottles our tears. He knows every one of our tears, and even when our lips can't say a word, our tears are liquid prayers. So yeah, we should give ourselves some grace as
Mhm,
we walk through this life. And it's okay to feel pain. It's okay to feel anger. It's okay to question the why, right? But what's not okay is for us to stay stuck.
mhm, mhm.
That's what's not okay. But
Yes, yeah.
if we feel all of the feels and we
Yeah,
give ourselves some grace, all
mhm,
while life is lifing, we
right.
will get through. We
Yes, it's
will get through this thing.
mhm. And what motivates me the most, doctor, is I didn't have a me, meaning not me, Jean, being this person, but the person that can stand here. And sometimes, well, let me speak for me. There were times I needed somebody to be the punch bag, not physically, but just the punching bag of my. I remember having outbursts. You mentioned anger tonight, right? I remember having those outbursts, doctor. I remember having those fits of trying to understand mentally the betrayals, because you go through the grieving, like you said, the triggers, all the emotional things that come with physical and sexual abuse, and just trying to, and then the frustration, disappointments, and failures. I mean, we can take the laundry list and just go down. So what motivates me the most is being a person like myself that I didn't have. What motivates you?
I think that's a phenomenal question. But I want to touch on something you said.
Sure.
I think there's a myth that healing is linear,
Oh, yeah,
that healing has a beginning and it has an end, and
mm,
that's where it's going to be.
yeah.
But a healing is more like a snake swallowing an elephant.
Oh,
When you get to a certain point, it's up high and then it drops low. And then it can up high and drop low, depending on where that thing is.
yes,
So
yes.
some days are really, really great days.
Mm,
And then there are other days that are not great days. And it's in those not great days that we need to give ourselves grace. So
yes,
when I think about what motivates me to keep going or to be the person that I wish I had, it's
yes.
just as you said, I wish I had a me.
There.
I wish I had a safe space
On. Yes,
that
Lord.
I could go and be vulnerable and not have that vulnerability used against me.
That's
A
real good.
place that I could go be naked and not ashamed.
Oh,
A place that where I could deposit my pain
mm,
and the
mm,
person will pray for me with me
Mm,
through it
mhm.
and not take me through it as a
Yeah.
result of it. Because sometimes we
Mm,
are telling our stories and our secrets and our
yes.
pains to dream snatchers, to people who are gossips, to
Yeah.
people who are secret haters of us, right?
Mhm.
Secret people who are looking at us negatively. And so when we think we're in a safe space, they are taking those things that we deposited in them and they are giving them away. It's now a point of gossip, like the
Yeah.
birds picking it off of the air.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, me motivating, me being who I am, I'm a place where you can come, lose it,
Mm,
and I'll pray for you and I'll pray with you.
yeah.
And it's not going to go far, it's going to stay right here
Hmm.
because we all need a
Hmm.
place of safety. We all need a place where
So good.
someone who understands, who's
Yeah.
going to speak truth to us in
Yeah.
love, who are going to support us, who are going to be okay, who are going to hold our head as we are sick, who's going to dry our tears. We all
Yes.
need that place.
It's so true. Oh my God. It's so, you just dropped. Listen, I want y'all to write in the chat whatever you heard Doctor say tonight that blessed your soul. Thank you, Doris Cohen. She said, oh my God, so true. Say it. Covenant keepers, Christina. Yes. Write something in the chat. As you were talking, I remember I ministered a word that God gave me dealing with Noah, right? And remember one of Noah's sons when Noah had gotten drunk. So Noah's in a state that was not good, right? But his son, when he saw his father naked, because you mentioned being naked, when he saw his father naked, he backed up and he covered his father like he had that much honor and respect. And the title of the message that I taught that day was Cover Me While I Recover. And we
Amen.
don't, oh gosh, oh,
Amen.
Lord have mercy. I'm sorry. We don't do a good job as to cover each other. I'm not talking to the women right now. We don't do a good job covering each other while each other recovers. And as you were talking, that's what I felt like you were saying. Like, come on, let me be that person that I can cry, like you said, and or come in your presence, and you be that ear that I need, or maybe that extension of God's arms to hug me when I needed that hug. And that was so powerful when you were talking, and I kept saying, yes, yes, cover me while I recover. It was just powerful. I'm sorry. I'm on a rampage. And listen, y'all write something in the chat before we keep going and going and going, because it's so um revelatory when somebody I felt like you just opened up this box and flowers just came out. If you can envision that somebody needed to hear the words that you have spoken to them. And guess what, guys? We're gonna have her back. So just don't worry. She's gonna be back. But before we close out the show, Dr. Blandon, say something to the viewing audience, to those that are watching on your feed. Somebody's gonna watch on my feed, to the playback watchers, to whoever. Say something to those women and men and or girls and boys that they can take away, right? Because it's about the takeaway as well. Because sometimes when we have these conversations, right, people are open. They're open and they're ready to receive. I'm working on something where we put something together that people need something to go to after they're open, because we can't just leave them open.
Yeah.
So say something, doctor, to all of us.
Thank you for that. Before I give that parting word, you said, cover me while I recover. And in covering me while I'm recovered, that's Galatians 6:1. Brethren, if you see a man overtaken in a fault, ye who are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of love and meekness. It is not over for you. Your experiences, your pain, your concerns, your hurt, your abuses, your losses is not the end of the story. I encourage you to press on. I encourage you to do the work. I encourage you to move beyond what you could see, because what you can see is not the final say. The pain that you are experiencing right now is not the final say. And I promise you that there is more beyond where you are. I promise you that there is purpose beyond the pain. I promise you that there is joy beyond the tears. I promise you that there is a legacy to be left. I promise you that that thing that you thought was designed to destroy you will deliver someone. So where you are right now and what you can see right now is not the end. Don't give up. Don't let go. Connect yourself to a person or a people group who can facilitate healing, who can cover you while you recover. Be willing to do the work. It's okay to get down and get dirty in the mess, because after while, after the greatest rain, we see the most beautiful sunshine, we see the most beautiful rainbow. And so there is purpose beyond this place that you're in.
I'm not going to put anything on what the doctor just said. I'm not going to add to it. No, really. Sometimes you have to know when to just let it land where it needs to land. I feel like what Dr. Blandon just said goes straight to the heart of the matter. And I'm just going to leave it there and let God marinate it, let God cement it to somebody's heart. And listen, we want to invite you back to Real Talk. See, I told you in this season of the show, we are bringing topics and issues to where people are really, truly living. So I'm just going to say thank you to Dr. Blandon. Thank you, my viewing audience. I just want to leave it right there. And let's let God just kind of have his way on that one. We'll see you next week on Real Talk with Jean Price. Good night.
I'm a firm believer that unforgiveness is like drinking poison, but expecting the other person to die. I think when we hold on to unforgiveness, it impacts us. Most of the times, the people that offend us have moved on. They have forgotten the offense. And every time we see them, we rile up. We feel something. It's only when we let them go that we can truly move on and heal.